Episode 304. We're here. We're revisiting some of the most heretical, outlandish, tomfoolery-ridden rankings I've ever posted. Yiska, I can't speak for as much. Apparently, he likes where he stands.
I love my power rankings.
You know, the stock exchange apparently just doesn't lie.
Scrimbucks, baby. It nenever fail.
We don't get a woo anymore?
Didn't miss one. No, it's serious business now. Okay.
Okay. Or stock exchanging.
Treat it with some, what's it called? Decorum? No, not decorum.
Reverence.
Reverence. That's the word I'm looking. Yeah.
Yes, we are going to be revisiting our rankings, maybe altering our rankings, maybe doing some mid-season rankings of our own. On top of that, we do have some news to break down. We have Striker striking out for the umpteenth time. What's up with that? What's going on there? Where could he be possibly going? I don't freaking know at this point. The Sparks making moves. We've got some contenders teams coming up. Big moves there. Yiska's still dropping interviews like it's hot. It's a busy week. It does not feel like there's games next week, but there is. And that's kind of crazy to say. Glad to see it. Glad to see APAC Open still kicking off, even though that format still leaves me perplexed and confused half the time. I know that we talked about that prior to the show. It's a weird one over there. They're a little funky. They're a little funny. They're haha silly posting a little bit. But before we get into the fun of today, we have to thank you guys for supporting the show. I see you guys in the comments. I see you guys out in the algorithms helping us out. Appreciate you so much. If you can't help us like these fellow people monetarily, you can go download the podcast, post on whatever, share on Reddit, drop a comment, leave a like, all that good stuff. But those that make the show possible. Episode 304, we want to give a special thank you to Battlecrab, Refined Bean, Bronzeball Buhau, Picasso, Chris R34444, Kasha67, Bolshin, Porkchop Sammy, Rexane, Volamel, and Sugar High. And our YouTube members, I am DRW, Brother Adam L, Iceham Jello, Fireline 6, and AK. So, Striker. He's out of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Yep.
The rumor mill says he's going home.
Cap.
I think that's cap.
Look,
Surely not.
If that was going to happen, it definitely wasn't decided by the time that was leaked. Right? Because you wouldn't see Boston likely release Striker.
Right, yeah. You'd
Like
want to try to get him for
a transfer fee. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
That didn't happen. You also have to acknowledge the tone of the tweet.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me. And yeah, I mean, did he play this year? Did he have any playtime?
Maybe in the Pro-Am, but I don't remember, honestly. I don't think so.
If so, then not much, right?
Yeah. Barely.
You gotta go to player history by match, Eric. What, very left? Data?
Audio listeners.
Players by match?
This gets piloting.
Go into Season 6, Striker.
We're quickly
Events.
looking through Winston's lab to find if Striker is actually played or not.
Player, yeah. And then event should be Season 6. I can't see if you pre-selected Season 6 there. Events?
I did not. Where is events?
You keep mousing over it. Lower?
Ah.
No?
Lower.
Two over Striker. Two over? Two fields over? Over is still a thing that goes up?
I'm lost. Okay, sorry. Not going to work out. Okay, we'll find out. I'll pull this up while you guys talk.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I mean, if so, then he didn't play a lot.
Yeah, no, obviously not. And you have to wonder, like like you said, like you have to kind of take in consideration the tone. Obviously, he has a past to him that I think is publicly out there. It's not anything nobody's heard of before. Is there room for him at this point? Is somebody willing to pick that up? Do you think?
Maybe, but why would there's a risk management aspect involved here, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, he played 2 maps as it looks. One against New York Excelsior and one against London. Both were Sombra. Yeah. Unfortunate. I feel like he keeps on occasions he keeps justifying getting 10 chances. But the last one, I mean, to be fair, that was sort of during the finals, right? Having the Reaper, and that kind of worked out. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe there's merit in keeping, like, trying to further employ him, but he's no longer like on top of the Tracer totem pole.
Correct.
He's still a veteran player that can play big
True.
in grand finals. But the last time we saw him do that was on Reaper. So yeah, I don't know. Like, is someone with a visa is not, undesirable, but who would realistically want him at this point or need him?
I mean, I think there are a couple teams that are at least open to the idea of like signing Korean players. The problem is, do you really want to be like that jerky where it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze at this point? That's not to say that like Striker probably could start, but that's just more of a commentary on like how low some of the low teams are. Yeah, it just doesn't. If this happened, like, let's think, towards the end of like the midseason madness, like the tournament itself, like Boston like gets knocked out, whatever, they come home maybe a couple days after the event, and Striker gets released, then maybe we see him land somewhere. But I feel like this is a little too late in like how people have been shaking out. That just doesn't make much sense. If he was going somewhere, I feel like there would have, like, the announcement would have been different to like the idea that like we've parted way, or like we've traded for compensation or whatever, right? Like you like you said, somebody would have made a play for the contract if that was the case. And it seems like that was probably something that they floated to teams, I would have to guess, right? Like that probably was a discussion they had with a couple different teams.
They did, yeah.
Wasn't interested, and they let him go. He probably didn't, again, I have to, trying to put yourself into a like player shoes, not getting any play time. There doesn't look like there's a future for you here. Why? Like, I want out. It's not, that's not crazy to me to think.
I mean, that could be the case, or it's just like a Moby move, right? Like,
could be.
I want to have my practice room lean and mean.
For sure.
Like, I win a certain culture here. He also talked to me about wanting another assistant coach. Maybe you need to free up some salary for that.
Sure.
It is a possibility, 100%. Right? Like, I don't know. We don't not know enough about this situation, but we can certainly infer something from the tone that it was done in, and from the timing that it was done in. So, yeah, I don't know. I think overall a pretty weird one that arrives at a pivotal moment for the Uprising's rest of the season. But I also think like Moby might be uniquely suited towards that task. So the recruitment of Moby actually gave me some hopium for this team.
Okay. Now, when you say hopium, like they've been doing poorly, like why do you think it's why do you is it more of an increased expectation? Because I feel like you ask anybody and
Yeah, this
Boston's doing all right.
I mean, they're not close to Houston or Atlanta. Right?
Fair. Okay, so you're just talking about like moving up the ladder, not just being stagnant.
Yeah, and I'm not. They're now even falling behind Mayhem in a sense, right?
Yeah, I could say.
That can't be the goal for a team as stacked and as spending as much, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But of course, the class of this team still carries them towards like higher ranking positions, as Scrimbucks had predicted, and everyone with I'm not
with a brain. Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah. Why didn't we do a Lord bet about that?
Because I'm not dumb.
Okay.
I'll just be dumb about the Titans.
Right. Yeah, no, I again, like, I think this is an interesting moment for the Uprising. I think I don't think they can catch up unless there's a meta shift. I think the gap is so wide. Like, it can maybe catch up to Houston. They can't. Like, Atlanta is too far away. I feel like we'll get to it, but Atlanta is just very good. And honestly, like, this might be the team where it's hard to find the situation where they aren't anymore. Right? Like the meta where they start sucking. And it could happen, but keep in mind, what is the Houston meta that Houston needs to pull? Probably something without Tracer, but still Monkey. What are Monkey metas without Tracer?
Ones with Genji, ones with Echo, I guess. And like, Pelly's like good at those, like really, really good.
Maybe
like,
you can hit those.
Preferred heroes.
Yeah, maybe you can hit those. But like, Atlanta is dominating while it's a Winston meta.
Yeah,
this is a problem, right?
Yep. The fact that you can go even with the best Winston player in the world. I don't think anybody should be saying that like Donghack is as good as Fearless, because I think that's like patently not true. But the fact that like you can stymie a star in a meta that they should be a star in says a lot, right?
Yeah, and Donghack is also no pushover, right?
Like, no, he's not a pushover at all. Like, he's really good.
He's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Boston needs something. They need to come online in some way.
Yeah.
And I think Smurf has been a little quiet, but maybe he was always a little overrated based on being in APAC. That's a possibility we have to entertain. At
least last year.
Right.
Prior to that, he was playing second to Super.
Of course. Then I think the DPS line, specifically Birdring, can level up still. Like, every once in a while, we got these flashes to like peak Birdring. That's a possibility. DK has been playing pretty well. That backline has been playing pretty well.
Yeah, that's the kind of the selling point for me, is like that those support lineups, they hit.
Yeah. So
BJ gone, but
yeah, no. I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think it would be interesting if we could inject one more team at the top.
Yeah.
And if Moby could get Boston to the level of Outlaws, that would already be a huge boon.
Huge. Yeah, 100%. And like, you want to talk about people like maybe nipping at the heels of Boston or maybe like their class. It's like, okay, well, obviously we talked about it last week, and literally an hour after we stopped recording, Dante leaks his own replacement, hilariously enough. Is there room to maybe consider gladiators in that conversation?
You got it. You got it. Yep.
I think there's still some room to kind of prove that they should be put there, but I think like Marvel is going to be a considerable upgrade, especially. I don't know if the APAC Open is going to be like super representative of the meta, especially in NA. But if that's anything to go by, like we're walking into another like grab bag. You get to pick what you like. Some of those top teams out of APAC, they're running. There's some Winston comps. There's a little bit of Junker Queen here and there. Diva's still being played quite a bit. There's some weird teams that are just spamming Junker Queen all the time. So it does feel open, and I wouldn't be surprised, at least at the beginning of like the NA kind of like return to scrimming, return to practice, if that wasn't the case here as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. The fact that they don't have Dante anymore means that they can play more. There's more hands for them to play. They're not just like locked in one direction. So you kind of have to put Glads up there. As much as we'll get to my rankings, and I did a big hater move. They're not the only team that made some moves after last week. The Spark, weirdly enough, have brought back Pineapple as a support player. Okay, I'm not mad at it, but do we have any kind of confirmation as to what he's gonna play? Because my gut tells me he's playing flex support, which means Monk is being questioned. I don't know. It's just a very odd move. Very strange.
This shit doesn't matter whatsoever.
Yeah.
I feel like this. Yeah, I don't know. This has no impact on anything, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can hit double flex metas.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, why are we imagining that that's going to be the case? Maybe they're preparing for, playoffs where there's going to be, a new support hero injected. You want somebody mechanically, and Pineapple is mechanically very, very good. Like, if you weren't paying attention, did he not play? Yeah, he was on Rhodes. They were quite talented. Like they held their own, I think, in some of those matches. So Pineapple is quite good. The fact that he's role swapping is a little strange, but we've seen it kind of work out in the past. Teru being, the most recent one, but it's not completely unheard of. So kind of remains to be seen. Don't expect to see a ton of him, if ever, to be honest. Maybe it's just a tertiary plan, or backup to the backup for playoffs. Could be that. You talked about, you just kind of referenced your interview with Moby Dick.
The
Dick is in. He's home. He's in Boston. He's in New England. Another friend of the show that you spoke to recently was ChrisTFer from the Spitfire. How's the boy doing? Why is he clogging toilets? Why is London just shitting all the place? What's up with that?
Well, the rumor is that Sauna is going to London, and I confronted him with the outside hypothetical, and he talked about how they are, like, he didn't confirm or deny the move, but he said they are going to make moves, and that's an interesting one, right? And
yeah,
we'll see.
It is strange.
Like, there are, of course, like some rumors who's going where and whatnot, but I don't want to entertain those too much, simply because, as this week showed us, there are some questions about the accuracy of the Leakosphere, okay?
True. And I mean, yeah, there probably should be. No offense to any Leakosphere posters, but
yeah,
let's be honest.
Get back to the accuracy I found you in previously. I don't even know how this happens. Also, people keep like insisting on Chengdu PTR accounts being active. That's not true. They never were active. Maybe there were some players with like names that could have looked like Chengdu, but the Chengdu PTR accounts were never active. That was a rumor that never happened. So yeah, this is it's going to be interesting. I think Chris told me he feels that his team underperformed a little bit under what they're capable of, and the metaphor he had is they are lacking Mario Kart boosts, and it made some sense to me. I actually believe there's a lot to it, meaning that last season when shit got hard, they got the matches that they are barely capable of winning,
Yes.
and that gives a lot of confidence, right?
Yeah.
This is the where we dive into human nature and say just about the best feeling a human being can achieve or experience is not achieving the goal. It is being in a position to be capable of achieving the goal.
Yes.
And shortly before they do, that's peak humanity. Okay, that's what drives the most progress. That's what makes you get up in the morning and do your most in order to get there. Okay, and these boosts, by virtue of their schedule, are not possible because they have 2 auto losses, right? They have Atlanta Reign and Houston Outlaws. Okay, but they also have some gimmies. They have Valiant. They have Paris. They have those are the gimmies.
Yeah,
and then you get to the NYXL matches, right? Direct competitor. You want to win those.
Yep.
Possible.
definitely possible.
I think maybe Eric can look it up who the rest of their schedule is, but the rest of those teams are all in the sphere of beatable theoretically. I think Shock was in there and one more team. It might have been
Very
Titans. Okay, so they are NYXL, Shock, and then easy. Glads is probably going to be a hard one, to be honest.
That one should be like leaning
Possible, but
Glads.
Maybe. Yeah. But like, you out of NYXL, Shock, and Glads, 1.5 wins on average
100%.
should be expected, right? Like, they can probably win against NYXL, and then they can have an upset match, especially depending on how the Shock come back.
Yeah.
I think they have a better chance against Shock than in Glads, but we'll see.
Yeah, that one's going to be like, I think this is the most like cold fucking freezer Antarctic take. It's going to really depend on the meta, not just because of like what London is suitable at playing and what they're good at, but it's also what everybody else is like comfortable with, right? Where like if there is a way to make a style that London is very good at work, whether that's Rush or something else that they come up with, and take for instance a team that we just kind of talked about in the Houston Outlaws, if they're also not able to play something that's very comfortable for them, let's say Ramatra for whatever reason, NA is just big Ramatra pilled and they only play Ramatra all the time. Is that something you want Fearless to play, or do you have to start Gargoyle? That throws the power dynamics of all these teams kind of for a loop. Some teams a little bit more so than others, but now you're looking at the London-Houston game with hypothetical context of like, okay, well that's way closer than what we thought. You know what I mean? Like there are realms where some of these games are actually kind of competitive, and it really just depends on like what hand NA wants to play. We're seeing some very open interpretations out of APAC right now, again from like some tier 3 teams, to be fair. Whether that's representative or not, hard to tell, but if that's anything to judge it off of, it does seem open to interpretation whether or not like a meta bug or like a scrim virus kind of sticks with people and it just becomes the standard comp that you play all over the place and then we start from there. We'll have to see, but I think there's room for just a complete like reset of, not a complete reset, but like a soft enough reset that like you can really start to try to foresee maybe a realm where, you know, London does well. And if they make moves, then I think that's like for the best, if anything. You inject some confidence. I think that's an easy way to kind of sell people that like, okay, this is different, you know, we're coming in, we have some more tools. Everybody's excited to bring, you know, somebody else in, let's say. And yeah, no, I think they got something going for them.
Yeah.
Any other things to glean?
Nope.
Not to completely ruin the content, but yeah, definitely go check it out. It's always a good time chatting with Chris. Coach of the Year after all.
Yep.
So go check that out over on, was it the GG Recon YouTube channel?
Yeah, GG Recon Overwatch. Most of the discussion is around the future of Overwatch League and the problems we face with content and with players being boring and soft, and as is the audience. And it was kind of an interesting viewpoint and lens through this. I feel like that type of discussion probably lends itself to a panel. I'll see what I can do.
True. I think that'll be that's worthwhile, even if it's more doomer than not. I think that there's a lack of actually educated people discussing what could happen, what might happen, versus my dumbass with my thumb stuck up my rear going, well, I don't know, fucking sell it to whoever. Another piece of news to kind of jump over. By the time you're listening to this, the Overwatch Invasion mini-series will be out. If you haven't heard, we finally have an OWL anime, or an Overwatch anime, not an Overwatch League anime. Yiska, I'm going to throw this question to you. Obviously, we're recording this from the past. We don't know what it looks like. We have some idea with the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
To the viewer who has seen it this morning, let's say, and is listening to it now, what do you expect the reaction to this going to be, and what are your predictions about it? Do you think it's going to be like the next Arcane?
Hell no. And I think nobody should have those expectations either.
Obviously not.
It's like a mini series. I think it could be cool to have some insight into it. I think the way I received this is like, it almost like flipped back to, it's just an extra thing. I don't understand how content creators can be so like negative about this. Just like
people are negative about it.
You didn't like it's just like, oh, it's a cop out, blah blah blah. Like, I don't know. It's like you didn't know this existed. You're getting it. It looks okay to good. It's not going to be a lot. That's the problem. It's the volume that
is. I think that's a fair criticism.
The issue, but I think most people will have enjoyed it. Will say it's not enough, and by the end of it, it will feel like the ultimate tease to not get the entire experience. And considering this, the production value of this looks high enough that if you want to fire one after and the production isn't already done, that's probably years out to
probably. I hate to say it, if Blizzard is anything, they're slow to do most things. And yeah, I think I'd agree. Like, I think it's probably going to be okay. I think it'll be cool for like the lore crowd that's interested in it. I think I'll watch it. I'm not going to put it as a priority, but like I'll check it out. Why not? Anybody who's like mad at this, I think, is unironically just farming clicks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like there's no world that this is like a bad, like this isn't a detriment. This is a net positive across the board. Whether or not like you agree to the idea that like maybe ending wanting more is a good thing. I tend to think that like media that leaves you wanting a little bit more is usually better than just ending on a really like bad or poorly paced note, if that makes sense. Like I like the idea of like what could come next. Obviously the question then is there anything that comes next? I think that's like a fair, like logical jump. But yeah, no, that's crazy to me that people are like upset at this. I thought this was like super cool and unexpected, and thought it was kind of neat. And again, I think word to the wise, and I think you said it too, like don't come in with crazy expectations. This is not gonna, maybe you're listening to this and being like, oh my god, they're so wrong, like it was so good. Maybe, who knows? But I'm coming in with very low expectations, and I hope some part of the community is served, and I hope that Blizzard hears that and they do more of this stuff, because this is what we need. This is what we were all hoping for 6 years ago. And I think that's maybe. another realm to kind of like poke at, where it's like, why is this coming so late? You know. Regardless, it's here finally, so that's a good thing. So let's hope it's good, and move on. Another interesting little tidbit. Deserto did kind of tweet out a report of sorts, let's call it, talking about the CDL and the Overwatch League collectively unifying the brands. Any opinions there? Because obviously we don't know if that's the case. I'm sure it's. I think the verbiage they used, it was like in discussions. Let's say
I have an insane hole in my brain where if someone told me this, I wouldn't even dream of reporting it, because that seems like such a nothing burger to me.
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, it is kind of an interesting. I mean, is it interesting? I don't know. Like, it's. I guess it's interesting to like the traditional sports crowd, where it's just like, I could lose my brand that I like, I guess, but
dude,
the fact that it was like maybe talked about through a walkie-talkie in an alleyway across the hall, like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Brand fandom is so weird if there's no discernible values behind it. Like, crazy shit to me. Like, okay, keep in mind, the unification that is proposed here is not necessarily getting rid of the localization. Because
Correct.
as this is framed in the article, it actually pools those franchises that have common ownership groups in the same cities together into one part, and they're just saying we're going to unify on those brands. So do you really care that much if it's like Optic Texas for the Dallas Fuel? Like, the Envy thing is gone anyway. Like, that's all Optic now. I don't know. Like, the fact that it's not the Dallas Fuel, the worst brand, possibly the worst brand naming in all of esports history, is not a problem to me. And like, here's what might be interesting. Why would you consider doing this? Okay. Is it just based on the brand value of those esports organizations that seem to be dwindling anyway? Like, which esports organization by themselves still have brand value or draw? There's not too many.
Not too many. Yeah.
Right? Like, even Optics impact has really diminished. The green wall is really small in comparison. What the green wall is now made up of is still the guys that are around, right? Like, people like Hex, people like Scump. Those are the guys that it's about the personalities now, not as much about the brands. Okay.
Yeah.
And if Hex and Scump never show up in Overwatch, why the fuck would people care? I don't think they would. I think in order to have benefits from this, you would have to have unifying values and or faces in ownership or general manager positions that are cross boundaries. Like, I don't know if is there even an owner leveled guy now in esports that's like universally likable. These are also it's really hard, but like, maybe you can use the same content creation team and can consolidate because of that. Like, I don't know, like, maybe you have some valuable content creators that can now do branding over several ones or whatever, right? That's a possibility. Yeah. Really, what is interesting to me about this is the possibility or thinking, okay, and this is complete, I have heard nothing of this. The only thing I ever saw remotely, like, even alluding to this, so this is just my brainchild, is Adam Apicella, former MLG, former esports engine, talking about how neat it would be to have North American FPS under one roof. Okay?
Got it.
So if you're having an issue in both esports of getting esports venues rented out, maybe the consolidation under one brand and one weekend would be interesting. Once again, not leaking. I promise to everything that is holy to me. I don't know. Okay.
Sure. You're just throwing it out there off of like some,
yes,
industry insiders talking. It kind of shoulders up next to this. It's kind of interesting. I do want to pin that because I think that is an interesting concept that I think like it would be interesting to hear community feedback on, because that does solve the dilemma of Overwatch going home to live events finally. If you're having a hard time following what Yiska's saying, if I'm understanding it as well, he's talking about how Call of Duty and maybe Overwatch could be consolidated into one brand for the teams, and then those teams would then compete, every, once a month at an event where both esports are played. Separate, sides of the venue, but under one roof, let's say, if I'm understanding what you're saying or what you're alluding to. Is it charitable to read this as maybe a way to appease owners in some way? Obviously, we've heard about the lawsuits and them,
I mean, they probably just like trying to
find a solution.
Yeah, like just give it to them. Like it doesn't matter. We're not going to resell this. The reason why you even came up with new brands was so you could move them if you, and without giving away your esports franchise, right? Like if I called the Dallas Fuel the Optic, and of course at the time the Optic wasn't in the picture, but if I called it Dallas Fuel the Dallas Optic or Optic Dallas or Optic Texas, and I want to sell the slot, then you have a problem of name rights now, right?
Right.
And that was avoided initially for the Overwatch League. It wasn't avoided in the CDL because they threw their weight around, probably rightfully. Okay.
Rightfully so, yeah.
And they, also there was, it made much more sense in CDL because of the importance of brands in
it's a pre-existing esport. We were brand new. Of course.
Yes. Yeah. So that made more sense. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it's a weird situation. You'd probably just give it to the owners because they see some value there. You're trying to optimize. This is not going to help much unless it grabs into a larger system. The thing is, like the suggestion I made with everything under one roof, that's also something that came up in the ChrisTFer interview, and I tend to agree with him. The Venn diagram of Overwatch fans and CDL fans might as well be two separate cycles.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, and while that is probably also true for some esports, I think it's especially true for, like, it's weirdly true for two esports that are under one, roof, developer roof. So, I don't know how that would work logistically, because I don't think maybe there's something to be said about different time zones that you want to use for Overwatch because of different international time zones. Maybe there's some smart happenstance of scheduling where it makes sense and you can share the venue costs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then also you kind of want different like stage setups. Maybe you can just have that digitally and just change those on the fly. I'm just thinking on the fly. But like, there are logistic hurdles of getting those done in the same arena.
Of course, yeah.
But
100%.
And also a question of audience and like how those time slots shake out, and that you would have to broadcast in very different ways because like esports games are so unpredictable in the length that they run, right? Like if you have 3 best of 5s a day, then they can be 3 hours or they can all be 5 games full, right? Or you can even draw. So that makes it so unpredictable in the scheduling that if you're scheduling the CDL right after, for instance, because you would start doing it early in the morning in order to appeal to the Asian audience, while then going CDL after in order to appeal to the mostly NA audience. Also not great for NA franchises, to be fair. But if there was to be some smart solution, as I'm talking, like there's so many hurdles. I'm not sure how that would make sense. But like everything that would make more lands possible is welcome to me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That was my like logical conclusion is like, okay, I agree. Like there couldn't be two more different crowds, but is there a world where you try to find not a bridge, but you add more, dare I say, titles? I mean, I don't follow Hearthstone, but I wonder if like you can throw Hearthstone in there and make it like a little mini MLG where you have lots of brands. And like, yeah, of course, like the WoW crowd is so different to the Call of Duty, it is different to the Halo crowd, but like because it's just an amalgamation, then it doesn't matter as much. I don't know. But at that point, does it matter at all because everybody wants to be at LAN? Is that a bullet we were willing to take logistically, socially?
I just don't know like how much cost you effectively, like let's say
saving.
back in the day, MLGs just were like a hall, and then you did different stages where different tournaments were happening, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's necessarily super cost saving if you do it like that. But because you also have to downsize, like MLGs never had super large live attendance.
No.
I assume you would expect larger live attendance now. Maybe not. Maybe
not. Yeah.
I legitimately don't know. Like maybe.
I mean, I think if Smash is anything to go off of, like you can, especially in Overwatch 2, like we don't get them often. And I don't think like a return to an MLG-esque schedule would mean that we would get them like maybe, you know, at the equivalence of like our previous stage, like sequence, where it's like maybe 4 times a year we get together and we have a LAN, which is better than this year, to be fair. Hopefully that continues to be improved in this hypothetical, but regardless, 4 is better than 2, maybe 5. Like at that point, I think that is a step in the right direction, and you know, maybe if we undershoot it and get a better budget for the next season, I don't know. Like it's an interesting concept. I tend to wonder if like the MLG format of the past is not something that we kind of have to return to, where it's like, okay, we're all in budget saving mode. Let's just get under one roof again and just, you know, have a celebration and try to sell activations like fucking Stride Gum like we used to, you know. I don't know.
Another thing could be, of course, like the more Blizzard Arena model, not necessarily the Blizzard Arena itself, but the stationary model where everyone is in one location, and maybe there's even a like a broadcasting area solution where like you know you kind of schedule CDL and all around it, and therefore you have a chance to like just have one arena for yourself, and the
kind of the way that the LCS does it, where it's like they're sharing the same stage with like the VCT and like League. It got pushed back and that kind of solution.
I'm not sure if they're sharing the same stage.
I believe that they are. I think because I think the big like hoopla about that was the fact that like League of Legends was moved days where normally they would be playing, but because VCT is sharing the stage for the same venue, they took up that time slot. I think that's the case. Maybe the comment section can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. I think they are sharing the same
I
thing.
feel like there was something about like one of our journalists interviewed one of the VCT guys, and they talked about the specifics of crafting the stage for Valorant.
I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe it's
the same studio
thing. Who knows?
Maybe it's the same studio, different stages. I'm not sure.
Could be.
Maybe you can rotate it or whatever it is, right? But yeah, like something like that, right? Like where you can just like rent an arena, or like even have a real estate solution where it makes sense to just have that as the company, have your teams play in it, and
it becomes like the location. Like you just find some place in Vegas and you like rent out yearly one of their like little esports arenas that has like room for live attendance, and like that's the studio that you play both the Call of Duty, like I obviously you can't do StarCraft because I think they sold the rights to that. And that's just the home of Blizzard Esports or Activision Blizzard Esports. I don't know. Like, yeah, I could see that. I think that's not terrible.
At that point, like, yes, localization doesn't make much sense anymore.
No, not at all.
Like, getting your brands together makes more sense. You have much more on-stage interaction. I wouldn't even mind our professional players getting to rub some shoulders with CDL professionals.
Yeah, why not?
Dude, like, please learn to Chad. It's another discussion we'll probably have over next, because like there's this, yes, like a lot of burden is on Blizzard to create an entertaining product, but there's also something that can be done from the other side, right? Like you can
100%
take the individual responsibility as a player to create. Like it's a win-win, right? Like you create your brand and then you create.
And you'll never hear me debate you on that. I wholeheartedly agree. But what really kind of opened my eyes and only like galvanized me in this way was Dante's retirement post, where he's like, bro, look, I come in every day, I work my fucking tail off, I grind, I put in 100%, and we can't even play on stage. Like, if that's the general attitude,
but
at least
it's
to
a
some
chicken
degree.
and egg, right? Like,
No, 100%. Like, even prior to the esports winter that we're in, it was still a chore to try to get players to actually build their brands. Some did, and they were, rewarded for it. But I do
many showmen in Overwatch ever, right? Like,
I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree. I think that it's a slow easing in process where I think there are some people who want to. I just wonder if we gave them a stage, if they would kind of come out a little bit. We
just got worse with it as well, right? Like we used to have more of this, and now we have significantly
because
less.
We're losing more and more of those showmans, or at least people that were good on the mic, or that were willing to at least talk. Like that's obviously not a good thing either. But I do wonder if there is like a morale thing there as well.
Honestly, like sometimes I think like all the talk about like how the Overwatch as an esport is not a great viewership experience. Like I'm a fucking WoW gremlin. None of y'all motherfuckers understood WoW back then, or the people that were watching it either. It was way too complex. I was like a top 10 ranked player in Europe, or like in a top 10 team on most ladder seasons, not necessarily at the actual professional part, because I also shit my pants on stage, but and I was sitting next to the owner of Dignitas, whose team was playing in the finals. Keep in mind, I was at the time one of the better players in Europe. I told him, "Oh yeah, your team won. This looks super over." And then it super wasn't, and Israel to this day is called a world champion, okay? Like, I didn't understand the game to that level. But it was also the biggest esports around at that time.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know why? Because there was, like, a community that absolutely embraced drama, right?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe to a fault to some degrees, there were definitely some boundaries that were pushed too far. But, like, I just recently rediscovered... like a conceptual post from someone called Ming, and he hosted World of Ming. Like the old heads will remember this guy, but like he almost single-handedly created the entire like vibe around
structure,
and like the everyone just wanted a piece of him, and then it was a shit talking back and forth. He never like went too far below the belt, but like he also knew who to signal boost. And it just created like a dramatic experience that was really attractive to a lot of folks. Interestingly, like people like Double Lift were in that community. Okay. People like Siegel were in that community back then, right? Like like old heads will remember Game Ride. It was back then, and like that. My belief of how esports works at that time is yes, like if you want the sports experience and the roaring arenas and everything in the moment and celebrate the game, then yes, CS is always going to beat you, right?
Mhm.
CS is also beating Valorant pretty badly at this specific aspect. But if you have the storytelling around it, the showmanship around it, the shit talking, the drama, right, of it all, and if you create these narratives around it, then you can almost single-handedly get an esports out of nothing, seemingly.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
You're not.
It's an elevator.
You're probably never going to touch the games that get it all right, because CS does this as well, right? Like they have the perfect game and they do the showmanship, right?
Yeah.
So, but and also like, I don't think we necessarily need to filter the audience too much. I think that was something that came through in the ChrisTFer interview, like the softness of the community and whatnot. All we need to do is convince everyone that none of this is that serious when we're shit talking, right? Like, you can absolutely call someone a shitter and bad at a video game and not mean it on a personal level, right? And have that be a wholesome experience almost, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, this is like the mode of content. Professionalism hasn't worked. NFL, NHL, NBA type of broadcasting hasn't worked for us. All this, like, traditional sports doesn't work for this demographic. It never made sense for this. You tried it, it fucking failed, okay? Now, like, let's get our hands dirty a little bit. Never take it too seriously, right? Like, Lord knows we have enough real shit going on in this community.
Ain't that the
But,
truth?
like, just have some fun and, like, also then, like, as we called out in that interview, it's not just on the audience to not go too hard on players, but, like, just own that shit. If you want to talk shit and the community gets back to you, like, just take it for what it is. If you're saying your comment in jest, why would you care that someone seriously attacks the comment that you made in jest, right? Like, just, and to be honest, once again, pretty much same. Like, we could be leaning into this as well as us. Now, for me, for my specific situation, if I'm the guy that's supposed to bring you the reported news, I have it's an interesting social situation where I'm also the guy that is supposed to be, like, it's very hard to be the Stephen A.
Yes.
And the Woj and the serious business reporter all in one personality. Nobody will take you seriously if you're trying all of those three at once. Maybe I need to be better and create that type of thing, right? But I think about this a lot. Maybe, like, I'm definitely also too soft in many ways when going in on those subjects, right? And
agreed, ditto.
Maybe we can just find a way to make it more interesting, because, like, sometimes this is probably the extent to which it makes sense talking about this. I really want to illuminate this point more going forward and really get an idea and appreciation for the fact that there is a way to still celebrate the gameplay, have more fun, have it be more dramatic, meaningful, even if you introduce kayfabe. I think, like, the problem here is, like, what these players do has meaning, intrinsic meaning, right? Like, they are spending 14 hours a day during their youth. They are the best out of, like, 30 million active players every week, right? Like, all of this deserves praise. We're not accurately rewarding this, so we gotta find workarounds to bring the attention that this deserves. And if it isn't celebrated with the most reverence, because it can't be, whatever, right? Like, just call someone a shitter, right? Like, why care, right? And then don't take it too seriously when it comes back, right?
100%. 100%. And it's, I do feel for the players in some aspect, but I think there is like a bottom line that they're kind of cutting into by, not being able to kind of like handle that especially amongst themselves, where it's like, if it is just a gentleman's agreement that like everybody is just, bantering amongst each other, then maybe it's also your job to kind of help somebody when they are getting attacked. And it's like, let's run opposition to that and, check in on them. And, that's you guys, I don't know if that's, on them. Hard to say. But in the same vein, when you talk about, somebody getting flamed for being bad at the game or vice versa, or, you get called a shitter. It's in, if that's the shadow to the light of actually getting meaningful narratives, stuff that actually gets to the like core audience, touches that heart a little bit. Because intrinsically, if somebody's getting called a shitter, then they kind of automatically take the role of the bad guy, and the bad, like very basic narratives tend to form in people's minds, whether it's underdog versus the, just very typical tropes. Those are automatically formed just by the lightest banter. Neurons will click for people, and those stories get told. Even if it's just in a Discord channel where you're showing it to a friend for the first time, it's, oh yeah, this is the championship team, and they blacklisted this team from practicing with them, and now there's drama. It's like, oh shit, okay, I'm already, you got my attention a little bit. Like, I want to see how this plays out, because I can only imagine the elation of the underdog team beating. It already starts to form. So, agree wholeheartedly that I think everybody needs to do a better job, 100%. And we need stages to do it, to be fair. So it does circle back to the old get to LAN discussion. That being said, let's get to the rankings. Let's review our beautiful, beautiful work, because boy, did we. I don't think we did that bad. I think you did better than I did, but I think collectively we had some solid rankings, I'd say. No? I think we missed on some teams, obviously, but overall,
I think like okay. So just to explain a little bit, we did power rankings on TCP, and then I got the Scrimbox juice, baby, and then I posted stuff later, which fair. Like, I'd like to be held to the standards of the Scrimbox rankings. But they're not too bad. They're not too bad at all.
I don't think so. Obviously, across the board, we all kind of got Shock wrong. But, past that, there are some interesting discussions to be had about, where teams were placed and maybe where they should have been placed. Let
me see how much I actually ended up. I demoted Shock big time.
Sure.
100%. No, not that big time. Like, still missing, but yeah, I course corrected them to third.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Boston lower. That's a miss than previously, I think. You guys got me, and also the preseason performance, to be fair. Like the preseason scrim performance. And maybe that, yeah. And the Toronto was a miss, of course.
I mean, I think everybody, the fucking. The Owl teams missed on Toronto, to be fair. Like, the market missed.
Yeah.
That's that. I don't hold anybody accountable there. Everybody fucking swung and missed on that one.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Shock. Everything else was like, okay, like Glads, like there were Glads believers. Hello, captain of the Gladiators fan hater club. Like, I didn't have them very high at all.
Yeah. No, like over my, I think Titans, of course, also because of our bet. Like, maybe I would have Titans a little bit, would have judged them over London, but I wouldn't have gotten much further.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
And then in APAC, I think I missed big on Charge, but that's it.
And I think we kind of we've talked about it a little bit. Like, is that just a flash in the pan, or is that something we can kind of consistently see? I would have to. I'm still wagering that this is not something that they can hold up, especially now that Shanghai actually has a tank. I don't think that's going to, like, the fact that they beat Dallas was interesting. Like, that was its own kind of interesting take. Obviously, it did not seem that Dallas was even remotely comfortable playing a lot of those comps, and they were written off almost like week 3. It was like, this team cannot hang anymore. It's just not the case, at least not this meta. Maybe next meta we'll see. I don't know.
Mhm.
But it is very clear that they're not on the same page. Charge obviously overperformed, but by saying that, it's not something that we should expect to see from them again, right? It feels like this should be, we should be course correcting. Are they dynasty bad? I feel like that's probably like the new low team. I think maybe Shanghai is probably in that category, and it's like, okay, we're now looking at like 4th best. So I think eventually it kind of circles back to where you had them, right? Where it's like, okay, you have them, 5th, 4th, 5th. I feel like now it could be.
Maybe, yeah. It depends a little bit more on Dynasty, I feel like. What they do with their rebuilding efforts. If they are
Sure.
indeed doing that. Yeah. But then again, like, you just got to say, like, the Charge performed way better than I anticipated. Even.
Oh, 100%.
Even
Yeah.
if they were to crumble now, like, I think that's fair that was a miss and an estimation.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Do we expect, like, even talking about the fuel? Like, I feel like I haven't talked about the fuel in forever.
Yes.
Right? Like, do we expect them to come back in the midseason, or not the midseason, but like the summer? Like, where?
I really would have liked them to make moves. I don't know if they don't, but like, I really feel like they hopefully would have to make some.
So Eric's got the list up now.
Okay.
Let's order it as, as we had it, where like let's order it as we go. So like, obviously I think we both agree that Infernal probably top team. Yeah?
Yes.
Then it's probably Spark.
Yes.
Right. Then it becomes a little
Shanghai last. I don't think that them getting a real tank matters much at all.
I think there's a possibility that depending on who we put above them, maybe there's some competition, but I think it's probably safest to put Shanghai last. Yeah, I would tend to agree. If Dynasty does make moves, this makes this difficult.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, and maybe this is just Fuel cope, but I think maybe I put Fuel 3rd.
Overcharge? Interesting.
I just don't like, and this, and you might roll your eyes, but like I just don't try. Like, I like the DPS line. I do. I think I've been like consistent on that front. I think Xerneas is a world class main support. It's outside of that. What are you gonna do? Yeah. I don't trust Piggy. Plain and simple. Like, if this does get away from a Winston meta, and it's not a Sigma meta, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I just don't see it. And God forbid Jimmy has to do something else.
I think like a lot of it will be meta, and at this point I assume too much will be changed, other than more teams running Rhine on the maps where it's good on. I think like Spitfire has already demonstrated that it works pretty well on the maps that it's good on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably like, that's the Ryan May.
Yeah.
ChrisTFer said maybe it's a nerf to me. That was very interesting to me.
And was that where, did you talk to him before this last patch or after? Because I feel like the way that they
but I'm also not sure which patch starts. So that's
that's fair.
Yeah, this is hard. Like, but I just assume this is going to be a more integrated comp with a couple of percentage points particular comp going up towards more play time for teams on average. I think that's the thing that I could see. Now, it looks like we're still keeping the meta steady, which helps us predict where this is going, right? More so.
Yeah.
If the meta remains steady, then we all we need to do is judge the pickups that are rumored, or disclose that you're not that sure if they're happening. Like Dynasty is such a cloud game where it team where like depending on what type of rumors become true here, it's a wildly different team that could float between 3rd and 5th.
Yep.
Now, also, I think none of the contenders teams have any chance anymore. They've been pillaged for their best parts. They go straight to the junkyard. They all don't matter. The only one where I think, like, just because O2 is better at scouting, I could see O2 reliably beating Dragons.
I at that point, I genuinely don't know. I think they probably have like raw talent, but at this point,
even their rebuild was pillaged. Okay,
agreed.
Like if O2 is actually better than Shanghai, for shame. Okay.
Yes.
Fucking
we're coming
shame.
from Moon. Moon's gonna be put on a spike because that's unforgivable.
Yeah. So, I don't think, once again, like too many players have been taken away from these contenders teams. I'm sure upsets will happen. And if you're not aware, by the way, like I might blow your mind with this, because you might have not looked into the how the APAC schedule worked. Might have believed the phrasing of the initial article saying we're going back with the same tournament mode that we do use in the first half and use in the second. That's not true for APAC. What we're doing is the 4 best contenders teams are now integrated into the regular season or qualifier schedule for APAC. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's O2, that's Pokerface, that's
Panthera and Dreamers.
Those 4 teams.
Yep.
They then will just play, like, there's now 10 teams effectively in the APAC region.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Therefore, each team will play 9 matches, I believe.
Something like that.
For the qualification. And then it goes into the knockout stages.
Yep.
And in the knockout stages, the contest teams that are currently playing for the 2 qualification slots will then join the OWL contenders mix.
Yep.
And whoever has the highest win percentage of those and the summer qualification, those will be pushed into playoffs or play-ins. Okay? It has nothing to do with the regular season schedule, as far as I know. And there's some question marks about that. Okay? For me. So, all of this is rather confusing, how this works.
Yeah.
I had no idea, by the way, about the contenders teams. I was like, wait, all is on? What's this? And then it's, okay, these guys are joining knockouts. Okay. These guys will also not do anything, right? Like during the
likely
knockout stages.
Not, yeah.
So, fortunately, we don't have to consider them too strongly. But yeah, like, this is, like, it fills up the APAC schedule nicely. And it is actually 10 games where I believe, yes, the teams are doubling up once. So twice. Wait, twice? Why twice?
Maybe some teams just get doubles of others.
Is this right, Eric? Why?
I haven't double checked, but it's loaded.
Wait, who's that team? That
O2 Blast, Pokerface, and Shanghai.
Right, but in which row are you in? Oh, did I not move
The Dallas Fuel.
Dallas gets to play Pokerface twice, O2 twice, and Shanghai twice.
Yeah. Let me unconfuse the viewers as well, because I dragged the window outside of the. Okay, so The Dallas Fuel has 3 back-to-back double ups? What the fuck?
That's kind of weird.
Of trash teams. Holy.
Yeah, they got gimmies. And to be fair, I don't expect, like, regardless of how good I think O2 is at scouting, I don't think you can really justify a team that was put together basically for this event to being, like, competitive. I just don't think they're going to be very good. I probably expect them to probably underperform people's expectations of, like, the brand that you come to expect. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, Dreamers probably does well and Poker Face does all right and the other two teams kind of bomb.
That's a like. Why does Dreamers not have a 10th game? Is it just not?
It's unclear, but yeah, I noticed I think there's some issues with this, so I didn't take it for
right. Like if that's not how it works and it's just our graphic, then fair enough. I can actually Joe, you keep it going. I'll just have a quick look if we're wrong, and then we can disclose.
He's gonna quickly look. Like, I think when we talk about the contenders teams, I think me personally, I'm a little bit more open to the idea that, like, a team like Dreamers, who for the most part has only added players. I think they added Top Dragon, which I think is great. Obviously, Donghun leaves to go join the Justice, and if you're familiar with some of the podcasts that we did with Hurix not too long ago, or I guess maybe in the preseason, somebody who he was very excited to see maybe get an owl call up, somebody who he was very excited about and in the main support category. So not a team that's changed a lot and has only really added good players. So
okay,
they could be punchy.
I see what happened here. It considered the Encore stream, so they're not actually doubling up.
Thank you. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, no.
So
no
maybe less than 10 games. Yeah, maybe it's more like 8.
Yeah. Okay. Disregard everything that we said right now. Sorry, like when someone responsible for the schedule in the Overwatch League watches this,
that's RB. We hold that out. That's fine.
Let me see what the actual schedule for Dallas Fuel is. Dallas Fuel goes Poker Face into O2 Blast into Shanghai Dragons. Dude, this into
That's
Dreamers.
An easy opening.
Into Dreamers and then Soul Infernal.
That could be maybe.
This is.
It depends on what gets played.
Being fed like calories, okay?
Yeah, they're getting tube fed a little bit. I don't know how to feel about Dreamers. I think they did overperform a little bit. I think they grew into themselves from their qualifying stages, yada, yada, yada. You've heard me talk about how they almost didn't make it a million times. It comes down to whether or not Dallas can play the meta. We don't know what that meta looks like. Obviously, there are differing opinions on whether or not it is a buff or it's a nerf, and we're seeing some grab bag opinions out of the APAC Open. Again, I don't know how to view that just yet, but if it's anything to go by, maybe there's a realm. And the more that I think about it, the more that I wonder if Dallas wasn't maybe early to scrims, and that's why a lot of teams are playing Junker Queen all of a sudden. It wouldn't shock me, Rush. That, maybe there's a way for them to get in. Because if there's not, and Hanbin just continues to kind of look a little lost, weirdly enough. And I don't even know if it's him. It's hard to even put a name to a face when it comes to, like, why Dallas are underperforming. Obviously the backline's just worse, period, the end. But that's an easy out. They just don't look good at all. So I don't know genuinely how to see that Dreamers game. I think that might be closer just from a cautious perspective. It might be closer than a world championship team versus a contenders team with a funny fuzzy unicorn as a logo. I allude to. So hard to say for that one. So where would you rank Dallas? With that being said, where would you maybe want to put them?
Okay, let me disclaimer this because I hate to just be like we just established that Dallas Fuel has one of the most ridiculously easy strength of schedules. So if you at that point where now we're doing power rankings, keep in mind we have that little power level counter interface in our eyes and say this team is that good, and then at the end Dallas Fuel is second or first in APAC based on the shit schedule, and you tell me, oh, look how off you were, like you're once again underestimating the Dallas Fuel. That's not what this list is for. Okay, we're just estimating power levels based on incomplete information that we have right now, not considering strength of schedule, which is a little different from the end of season schedule. Okay.
Yes.
So, based on that, it's either third or fourth.
Yeah. And that feels like the weird grab bag where it's like, okay, if Dynasty does make the right moves, maybe they go third, but because they haven't and we have a week out of games, the clock's ticking there. I think I kind of have to trust that Fuel probably gets it done, so I'll put them third for me, and then I'll probably drop. That one's tough.
Still not a bad team, right? Like
they're not bad.
They're 4-1. They just lost to Spark, and that fucked them. Like
yes, but it fucked them in a meta that was like ideal for them, which was also kind of surprising that Piggy actually looked competent, right? Like that's what I'm worried about is like if we agree that some of these maps are a lot more charitable even to the APAC teams to be playing Rhine, to be playing May, to be playing, if you can get Jimmy on Cassidy, maybe that works. But we don't know if that's even a thing, right? Like if we're agreeable to the idea that Rhine gets a buff here, just a comp around Rhine, or just some kind of rush comp gets a buff, and you have to ask Jimmy to play something else, and you have to put Choi on like a utility role, that's where I worry. If this kid isn't playing like Tracer and Genji and can't just like fucking +2 every fight, I think that severely impacts them. I think the play style is different enough that we have to kind of reevaluate where the charge is. That's not to say that I think the Dynasty are just that much better. I just think that the levels already come down, so it could be a bit of a grab bag, right? I don't think that. I don't know. I'm willing to maybe bump Dynasty over Charge. I think it's like a coin flip, so I'll just do it for the sake of having an argument. Plus, if the rumor mill's spinning around them, maybe they do make a right change. I like him over Charge, personally. I don't hate it the other way, to be fair. I just don't know that you can put Charge at third. I think that's where I would hardline.
Sure. I don't hate it, yeah.
All right. Outside of that, I think the contenders teams, I tend to agree with Yiska. I think, you've heard my stance on Dreamers and Poker Face. Those are the two teams that they're going to do something.
Yeah,
maybe
maybe Shanghai. That's
about it. Yeah. Unless Charge actually just poops their pants live on stage and starts throwing it into the crowd.
No shot. They're the worst team in APAC. Like it's still Dragons. Yeah,
100% they are. Speaking, you want to get to another, maybe we change the worst team. Go to the West. Let's start from the bottom up. Like, are we still of the mind that not Paris, but Vegas these days, we banked on them improving over the course of the season. That wasn't the case, but they've rebuilt in the midseason. Do we think that this is still... Do we think it's now the worst team? Are they better than Valiant?
Yeah. I think so.
I agree, but I don't think it's by much. I really think that ping is going to hinder them.
Yep, I don't disagree. There might be a close match.
Yeah. I think it'll be close.
It's not happening. It's happening in the not so distant future, I believe. If I'm not mistaken.
That's a must watch.
Let's see the Atrophy Bowl.
Oh, it's so rough because like Vegas, unironically, like if you could just get them here, they unironically might be okay. Like they might be like Justice tier.
I lied. It's July 30th.
Oh, a day before my birthday. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Atrophy Bowl. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Valiant probably is last.
Yeah.
They didn't make any moves. They still kind of suck. God bless Seeker, but it's looking a little rough out there. That kind of leaves Vegas right where they are. I think we'd agree there, right?
Yeah, like the biggest upside is probably Excelsior.
Maybe.
And that's it, yeah.
Even in terms of power,
yeah.
I in terms of power, maybe they win a head-to-head in a close game. Maybe Kellen C9's on fucking Havana again.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of power on the offset, it's not close. I tend to agree with New York, right? I think that's like probably where I'd put them.
Yeah.
Now we get kind of confusing. Because my gut tells me Toronto. No? I get they've made moves, but is that enough? Maybe I don't know if London. Somebody has to go there. I'm more open to Toronto. No? What do we think?
Yeah, keep in mind, this is power rankings. This is not where they will end up after the stage, right? Because London has a pretty easy schedule.
Yep.
And Toronto is getting another easy schedule after having had already an easy schedule.
So. Yes. I'd be remiss if I didn't look at, if we're going to talk about the meta, if the meta doesn't change too terribly, Kalush still is, maybe mid. He's not bad, but
yeah, same for Hadi though, right?
Yes, but if we're agreeing that the Rhine team comp got a boost on some maps, that's going to be, I think, a bigger benefit to London more so than it is like a detriment to Toronto.
Let's ask this.
Okay.
Do you think Sauna is an upgrade?
I could not. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I could not tell you.
Okay. Do you think the new Toronto hire is an upgrade?
I think Spectre is good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think openers I didn't spend enough time to look at. I didn't dive too deep into Toronto to really see if OG was like a big liability. If anything, my brain tends to want to like lean back on like this like story that we were told that like UV and OG are like that dynamic duo, yada yada yada. They're too good, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My brain immediately kind of locks in on Spectra. It solves a problem. It forces them to play a 2 DPS lineup and not musical chairs around anymore, which I think is probably for the best. Yeah, I would tend to agree that Toronto's DPS signings are probably better than London's rumored signings. I would have to imagine.
Okay.
Just in terms of like skill.
Yeah, I'm putting Toronto a little bit above Spitfire, but I think because this is going to break people's brains. You said the sensor schedule doesn't matter, blah blah. Okay, here is where it does matter towards the power level because of the Mario Kart boosts. Okay, Spitfire is going to play better because they will have easier opponents and they can feed their confidence on. Okay. I think Sona is an upgrade. I think.
Okay.
I do think it's an upgrade for Toronto as well, and it's a bigger upgrade for Toronto.
Yeah.
I think you got to put Toronto ahead of Spitfire. You're muted.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm yelling at my sister. So you're saying you put Toronto over London. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm open to it. Me personally, though, I do think that if the meta opens up for any kind of rush comp, I do think that is the cornerstone of how London makes the difference up. Where it's like, yes, I think both teams have probably upgraded. Maybe London has upgraded a little bit less in terms of just total skill points, but because they're fighting, in the ocean, and they're an ocean type, right? They have the same typing, or at least they have the opportunity to be like in the home field, let's say. I think that's going to increase their power level, but maybe not necessarily their performance. And again, because this is power rankings, that's where I go, okay, they're a stronger team because of the environment, less so Toronto, that still feels a little, they kind of have to get their feet under them. They have new players to add. Now their comm structure's shifting in some way. It's close, and that's kind of the fun part of this. It's like I don't hate it either way. I personally say this, you personally say that. I think we'll just agree that maybe Toronto, because I think, again, gun to head, I think the DPS is probably going to make or break this, and yeah, I think Spectra is kind of nutty. So I like this.
Okay, there's no nice way to talk about this.
Yeah.
I think it's a downgrade. Whatever is happening, this has to impact performance in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the Titans. I think they're good cultural fits.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know if I should trust the Lethal League or not. I think if it was lethal, I think this guy has way more to offer than he showed at London.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to start over Sparker, to be fair.
I think that if they were to get Seeker, I was looking at stats for the interview I did, and I don't think Aspire was like super good on for this season.
No.
So
not at all.
I think like he is more replaceable than people realize. Now I'm a little interested in terms of the cultural fit of Seeker. Like, why is he not already on this team prior, right? And is there buyout and whatever is happening, blah 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 blah, right? But yeah, whatever is happening, like it is an impact, and it might just be big enough to put them lower.
Yeah, I mean, color me biased. I think I can't really say much without being just written off as biased. But I tend to agree. I think that Aspire has not had the season that I think we thought he might. And that was definitely alluded to from the Pro-Am, where his Sombra was kind of bad.
Look, it wasn't bad, right? Like he was a solid average player in the Overwatch. Sorry, the Sombra is whatever, but like the general performance, like he wasn't an obstacle for his team to succeed
here. Yeah, I think I would agree there that, you know, there were times where they kind of put him in positions to succeed, and he did kind of succeed, and they punched well above their weight. That's for sure. I think they'd agree with that too. But I think that's more. That was, I think, more of a him thing. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like he can't do much else. You know, we just kind of have to put him on Sojourn and hope he does things. And it's like, that's not where the meta was trending, right? Like, we wanted to go Hanzo. Their Hanzo was okay, but they didn't play a ton of it, right? And I think that
they had way better win rate with Hanzo as well. I'm not sure why they didn't force it more over the Sojourn. Like, that was a weird
I don't know. And maybe that's just like a me like looking back and trying to remember like what they ran towards the end of the stage. I remember way more Sojourn than I think a lot of other teams were running, and I think that was probably to their detriment.
Yeah.
So that one's always kind of threw me through a loop,
right? Like
that's how I have to write it off, right? It has to be like Aspire kind of likes it. He thinks he can hit whatever, vice versa. He's not here anymore, so it doesn't matter. Everything that I've heard around Lethal, granted, you can call them homers, you can call them biased, whatever, is that Lethal is way more flexible than, you know, people let on.
Right.
So I think that is going to benefit Titans more than it hurts them. I think I still probably put them over Justice, personally.
Look, also, if it is Lethal, That's your chance, dude.
Yeah.
That's your chance. Okay. I'm not sure if you're getting too many after this.
100%. Yeah. We don't know what the hell we're doing by the end of the year, so you got to make it count. I mean, you get some starting time.
Yeah, you got to bank. You have a incredible second DPS next to you. You have a solid environment, as we heard from in previous situations, right?
Yep.
So, this is your time to shine here, right? And if you can't deliver in that environment, it's probably never going to work. Okay. Now, of course, all of the situation could have had impact, but I assume that this is as good as it's going to get for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, definitely lower than Justice. Justice has upgraded.
Yes. To an extent, they've upgraded, but outside of that, it's still pretty much the same team.
Yeah, and then
yes, they've made
honestly,
moves, but
okay, what I feel good about, just because I there's a relative high amount of inaccuracy. Wow. Okay, let me sort my brain. 3 teams: London Spitfire, Toronto Defiant. 4 teams, sorry. London Spitfire, Toronto Defiant, Titans, and Excelsior. Tier break.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's the more important thing. I like where you're shifting there, where it's okay, let's put in the tier breaks first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Justice is very clearly a better team. Here's the
see that's where Joe, that's where I would shift, but that's just me. I don't hate it.
Joe, is Shock in that tier?
They fucking might be. I'd move Shock down below Justice into the weird tier. Yeah, I'd put him there.
Yeah, and of course, a lot depends on what the fuck this team is doing.
Sure. Okay. Let's assume all possible. Let's go full Doctor Strange. Let's go full fucking bonkers mode. Haha, silly posting. Okay. You can't tell me that the players that are floating around in this rumor mill make any sense. A, make the team better. B.
Okay.
Maybe it makes the environment better. C.
Here's the conservative take. Okay. Nothing changed other than Probe coming in. And wait, who are the DPS for the Shock?
Proper, he's saying.
Just Proper, he's saying? Okay. Just Probe comes in. Where's this team now?
In terms of what?
Is it in the Justice tier, or is it in the 4 team tier?
In the Justice? No, I put him below.
Okay.
I would put him under Justice. I'd put him with the Titans. I'd put him in Toronto, and I might put Titans above him.
Okay. Now they get a new backline.
That doesn't. You would have to. It would have to be a fucking near miracle performance to instill any faith in me.
Right.
Because I don't even think it's just a backline. Right. You can't look me in the eyes. Granted, I get there were logistics issues. Maybe there's environmental issues. I get it. Trust me, I do. That being said, the performance from Max and Junbin has been less than inspiring. The coordination from the San Francisco Shock has been less than inspiring. It can't be individual pieces moved. It has to be like an identity, a culture move. And the amount of changes that I've heard run through the rumor mill, it seems like maybe that's coming, but you still have to get that online. You know what I mean? You still have to get the mana to summon the card. You know what I mean? It just doesn't come together like that all at once. Yes, it's still a team with Proper, but fuck, this team has been abysmal. And I need to see something before I trust it into again. They're starting from a bad place. Do you disagree?
No, I think there is a world where just by virtue of something, all the transfers that have been floated here, other than Vega, which is not a possibility any longer.
It can't be. Yeah, it's not possible.
Is not in a substantial momentum shift into them becoming a top team. Unless there's something internal that you solve by doing so. Okay?
Uh-huh.
I think if that was to occur, it is equally likely that you just solve it by going, okay, what the fuck? Like, we got to go back to the basics. We had a bunch of weeks, 6 weeks or so, break. Fucking finally, we rediscovered ourselves. And I should probably start collecting scrim bucks because that would have to show up in that.
Yeah.
Like,
it'd be coming up now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have those right now. Otherwise, I could give you a better
estimation. Of course.
But I think nobody should be mad at just the putting the shock in that bucket of the teams down there.
Yeah.
Even taking everything into consideration. I think that's the conservative take to have them.
Yeah, it's safe.
Either like exchangeable with Titans for the top team in that run.
Yep. And it sucks to put them there, but like that's kind of where we have to start from because of the past performance. And arguably, the players that they're getting are mechanical downgrades. I think that's not too crazy to say, right? I don't think any of the players that have been floated through the rumor mill are anywhere close to being mechanically on the same tier. I can't say that I follow the rumor mill all that closely, but from the stuff that I've heard from other people,
I mean, they had
that follow the rumor,
right? Like that's mechanics.
Even that, like it is, and that's going to make them a little bit more meta-proof. But, bro, like he hasn't played in a hot little bit either. Like,
yeah,
how many times are we going to run that gambit again? Like, that's not something I want to put a lot of faith into. I don't know that that's going to be a great environment fit either. Yes, it's worked in the past. This is a very different team. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like it. Okay. I don't like it. It's a bad gamble. Experiment failed. We go next.
Okay. This is the interesting tier. I think there's
there's a lot of interpretation here, yeah.
All of those teams deserve to be in that tier.
Yep.
And all of those teams will have made changes by the time we start playing again. Because if the sauna thing is true, then they're currently sitting at 5 players. They need 6.
Sure.
Unless Albert is getting signed.
It wouldn't be surprising.
They will need a 6th player. And that's interesting to... Like, we haven't heard anything what it could be, okay?
Yeah.
The Uprising have, of course, a new head coach and have let go of Striker, okay?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Gladiators have exchanged Dante for Marvel. I mean, that is pretty much confirmed at this point.
Yeah.
And then the Justice have already announced that they have replaced FD God with
correct.
Donghun. Donghun? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a bunch of, I would say, just in terms of arrows. Justice up, Gladiators up, Uprising up, Mayhem undecided. But that doesn't necessarily imply that they now totally shift in power rankings. I'm just saying that that's the upwards trend. Like, I think what I'm saying is I like those changes that those teams have made.
Yep.
I think they generally go into the right direction where I want them to go.
Yep.
I'm really intrigued by what Mayhem could do. I could see them taking advantage of some of those droppings. I don't think it's Striker.
God, no.
But
say it ain't so.
That could be interesting.
Can I, not to completely derail you, but can I fill you another team that probably should maybe vulture some of these midseason moves?
Sure.
And probably hasn't?
Sure.
If we were to add an additional good player from the pool that maybe we're pulling from to the Soul Infernal, are they more internationally viable? Obviously, it depends on who it is, but obviously they're a team that, Poco technically is their 6th player. Technically. He's not playing, obviously, but if Poco was to leave,
I think
and we add a player.
I mean, every team can gain from getting a 6th player and like having more access to the hero pools. But I really don't think the primary issue for Infernal is the lack of a player. It's the lack of quality practice opponents.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
And that's like, it almost doesn't matter who you get in there unless it's like fucking Alpha Yi or some shit. But it's, yeah, no, I don't see an immediate upgrade from anyone that could reasonably be considered, because it's hard to upgrade from MN3 and
yeah, Zest.
Zest.
That's
It's hard to upgrade from Mac this season.
these days. Yeah,
It's hard to upgrade from
skewed at least. Yeah,
There's like probably like 3 or 4 players where that's even, you could even consider that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not getting none of those. They could get another flex support. I wouldn't hate that too much. But Fixer doesn't have a mechanics issue, right? So, and we have a notorious issue with main supports anyway. So no, I don't think the Infernal can snag anyone that's available and make a meaningful upgrade here.
Yeah, I maybe that's the wrong word, where it's like, okay, we can't make a meaningful upgrade, but would you hate them meta proofing, where they just like grab like a
support?
Yeah,
No.
grab a flex support, grab a flex, not even a flex tank, but like maybe a 3rd DPS just in case for playoffs. Like, okay, we've got a great opportunity. We're not there necessarily internationally, but what's the best case to get there? Maybe we need a 6th player just to keep it safe.
I don't know who. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's where it's like up in the air. But again, that's another team, alongside a lot of these NA teams. We're talking about the Mayhem. It could be similar stories.
If you do it, you need a star player. That's the only thing that upgrades you. And it's probably going to be interregionally rather than internationally that you're upgrading from.
Yeah.
Like maybe someone's pissed off. I don't know. Like Choice A1 has seen enough, or
sure.
Maybe Hisu is like done with it. Profit wants to go practice
to
in
the
other building over. Dude, like Infernal is not my problem. Like I want Dallas to move.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's the team that I want to see.
But like, I mean, without completely circling back to APAC, well, we'll have to put a pin in this for another day. But like, I don't know even what you do. What do you change?
Yeah, no, you'd have to count on the stupidity or apathy of some of the lower ranking teams to give you one of their gems in order to get any critical mass going in order to attack Infernal and Spark meaningfully, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even hate the core that they're running with. I think they just have to.
Yeah, that as well. But it's
get
also
it back.
They need a meta change as well. Like real talk.
Yeah. And I think that this is maybe the way that they can force it, where, I jokingly tweeted out coming into the APAC Open in the spring that like, oh, everybody's running Zarya. Oh shit, like Rush is already, infected APAC, It wouldn't surprise me if they try to force their own thing again. Obviously, we saw them kind of end the stage with a lot of Junker Queen, which was a little, unorthodox to say the least. It wouldn't shock me to see, them try to play around Hanbin, give him power picks, and figure it out from there. Whether or not that is good in a more open meta that's a little bit more stripped away from Winston, depending on the map type and game mode. We don't even know what Flashpoint looks like, to be fair, but that's maybe a little bit far-fetched, looking a little too deep. I'm open to being surprised again. I was surprised in the past. Was surprised, especially last year. Wouldn't have pegged Dallas Fuel to be the world champions by the start of their season. And here they are. So
yeah,
I'm open to seeing veterans do well.
Okay.
NA though, I genuinely don't hate how we have it, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. So Atlanta Rain, Houston Outlaws set.
Yeah.
I could even you could talk me into setting a tier break after Atlanta Rain.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean the first Outlaw series was close, but like the second one was a blowout.
Past that, no. But that's where it's like, okay, does the meta like shifted enough that like that tier break gets erased? Where it's like, okay, it is close. It's very clearly Atlanta still, but it's not a complete class difference like it ended up being in the spring. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I lean.
You got to put Florida ahead of Uprising, but I think the trend for Uprising is to lap Florida unless Florida gets a big pick. And like I feel like there were 10 million O2 Blast players that departed, which have not been connected to. And like, Top Dragon is no longer on.
Top Dragon is on Dreamers.
Dreamers, okay.
Yeah.
What about Attack?
Attack leaves team. Attack last played for O2 has not been tied to a team. Flex tank player looked pretty good. Solid Junker Queen.
Probably not interesting for her. What about what other O2 players left and haven't been connected?
Knife left. Top Dragon Proud. Not somebody who I've been super. I don't have like a big read on, to be fair.
Yeah.
Profit and Protect joins. Search joins. Who are you joins? Dada Smooth. What a name. God bless. Opener left. Irony left. Yeah. Outside of that, it's just Proud and Attack that need homes.
Okay.
And I don't know if those are difference makers.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird one.
Yeah, it is weird. I think that that's inner regional stuff where it's like, okay, if we're pointing towards, Seoul, maybe we're pointing either Seoul team, to be fair, Dynasty or Infernal, as potential homes for someone, not the Florida player, but like just anybody. That's where maybe I'd start to be looking, maybe Dallas, bolsters their ranks a little bit. I don't know. Hard to say really. When it comes to like the mid-table in the West though, I tend to agree with your sentiment around Boston and Mayhem in the head-to-head, where it's like, and obviously we've seen McGravy's Twitter thread recently about creativity in the league and vice versa. I tend to see Mayhem starting the season maybe out on a good foot, having some odd reads, maybe have like a weird comp that throws teams for a loop or two. Like they have the creative read, which I think is better towards the beginning of a meta shift, and less so in towards the end of the shift, where it's like, yeah, I think Mayhem maybe starts off the line really strong, but Boston, tends to mechanically probably get it together by the end, and a lot of the creativity stuff probably isn't going to last. So yeah, I probably would agree that maybe Boston goes over Mayhem, not by much, but just in terms of power. By the end of like the stage, I think Boston probably is above Mayhem by the end. But outside of that, I don't.
Could also be totally wrong and they fucking crumble, right? Like,
could it's I mean, there's always room for that.
Yeah,
there's always room for a team to just implode and figure that out. But outside of that, it's like, okay, Gladiators have improved, but are they just as good? I don't know. It's weird to say that, but
maybe they are.
It's a close. This is. You could order this any kind of way, and I'd probably agree with it. Outside of Justice leading it,
yeah.
I think Justice has to be towards like the middle, if not towards the bottom. But yeah, I don't hate this either. I think if you want to like put Glads at the top, I don't hate it. I don't agree, but I don't hate it.
I swear this is not going to withstand the influx of Scrimbuck's knowledge. Okay,
no, 100%.
Like this is what needs. We have a lot of probability clouds here of like things that could happen. I could see like one or two teams from the lower pool getting into the upper pool,
Titans,
and vice versa.
Not Titans.
But everything else, like I don't feel particularly bad about any of those.
No, I think the tier breaks all make sense. Like any tier jumps would be very surprising. Like I think Shock could be one. I think Titans I personally would probably put up, but that's just me.
Should we
outside of that? I don't know. Maybe Defiant. I don't know.
in the East region, should we put a tier break after Spark and
Yes.
above Dragons?
Dragons. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Would agree.
Yep. Based. We perfected
failed
rankings.
posting.
This is a base take.
These are the perfect.
All great.
Spotless.
Takes.
No ass pulls. No
I
abhorrent.
actually put Uprising below Mayhem.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's the base take.
Okay.
Just also because they just most recently won against them. And they just subtracted players, right?
I guess.
And edited a head coach, yes. But yeah, I gotta see it before I believe it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't hate that logic. I'll fully support that. Outside of that, I think I agree wholeheartedly. I'm ready to be wrong somewhere. Do we? What team in the West do you think you're going to be most wrong on? I think APAC probably remains the same. I'd be surprised if APAC really shifted. But if there was a team in the West that you think you got like severely wrong, which one do you think it is?
Fuck, I have the same. Toronto and Boston might switch places.
Ooh, now that's spicy. I think Shock probably is the big whiff.
Could also be.
It could be.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, okay, if they finally get on the same page a little bit, Proper can actually cook, they might be jumping ranks. That actually, weirdly enough, it might work. I don't know. Krusty's done weird things and it's worked. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All
right. We said we'd be in here for an hour, and here we are 2 hours later. It's always the case, man. It's always the case. Anything coming up for you?
I'm actually sitting down with. By the time you listen to this, I'm about to record the interview with Sika.
Okay.
Going to sit down with him. I'm still trying to reach out to the couple of other players and coaches to get as much content out before we start up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise, shame old.
Hell yeah. All right. I think I've got some stuff coming out on GG Recon. I put out some flowery stuff. Hopefully, maybe we'll see that soon.
Yeah, I'm going to put out the Dante one, and you will have access to that by the time you listen to this.
There you go. Go check out the Dante memorandum. I don't know if that's the right word, but regardless, saying a fond goodbye and maybe it's not so bad type of vibes. We'll figure out what we do next week. Hopefully next week we'll have a guest. We'll see. We were supposed to have one today. It didn't work out, but that's okay. Until 3:05. We'll see you for the previews next week. Al's coming back. Summer Stage. Stay tuned. We will see you.
Peace.